1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Taking it to this on dealership, haven't you?
Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's the Friday show. It's the first show of 2025. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Chris Beesley. Chris, how are things? Good Christmas?
Yeah, as I said, just a football getting in the way of that. But yeah, still I am looking forward to what will hopefully be Everton's first ever Premier League win at Bournemouth. So that's me being positive to start 2025.
And what's on the agenda for Everton then this 2025? All good, we hope.
Well, yeah, I was very excited to see Joe's piece yesterday about the test game at the new stadium next month. So that'll be exciting, won't it? And obviously another one to come after that. Just got to make sure, that it's not the unthinkable. Everton have to move into that new stadium as a Premier League club.
Absolutely. Gav, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and Happy New Year to everyone, all our watchers and listeners.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Did you have a good New Year first of all?
It's quite one by ours, eh?
Was it?
Back in house for the year.
Didn't go to standard or anything in
I
West
did actually.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, and some of these said how much they like listening to the podcast as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that was good, but a bit quiet.
Yeah.
Really. And but hoping for a better 2025 compared to the end of 2024, I think is the thing.
I think as years go for Everton, as 2024 goes with the points deduction and everything. I know that was the year before, wasn't it?
The second one,
yeah.
To be hit with a second one as well.
Yeah, well, it was 2 halves, wasn't it? I think the first half we were, obviously had that really good run in April and May, didn't we? 5 consecutive wins. And finished whatever 11th you want to call it, 12th, whatever, which was a very decent result, all things considered. But the end of this year has not gone great for us, has it really? This season, and it's reflected in the table. And let's hope we can have an uplift like we did in 1984. To remember that, win the cup from being threatened with relegation at Christmas, win the cup. But football's changed since then. But looking for the improvements, obviously.
Absolutely. Did you see or did you hear about how I was a bit of a hero over the past couple of days? Found someone's season ticket.
Yeah, in Rigby's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Has it been reunited?
Well, I put it out, didn't I? As a post on Twitter, and then it got widely shared. And a listener of the show, Steve Griffiths, got in touch and was that's my ticket. So this morning, I had a dentist appointment this morning, so I dropped it off at Goodison on the way. So I've already messaged Steve to say that his season ticket is hopefully safe and sound in the Park End.
I like that to see some of the comments underneath about it. We lost it deliberately.
Thrown it away after
does he really want it back?
Well, I did say that in the tweet. I said I assumed that it wasn't thrown away and it was lost. So it was after the Forest game. I was walking down the stairs in Rigby's and I just saw this wallet, not expecting it to be a season ticket. And lo and behold, there it was, an Everton season ticket. Couldn't have fell into the most perfect hands, an Evertonian, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Okay, well, today's agenda, we've got to apologise for it being the first show of the week. We do try to do 3, but obviously with the new year, with the Christmas rota, it has been quite difficult to get people in. And to be honest, I've got to thank Gav for saving the last 2 podcasts, really, for coming in. And basically, saving the pods and being on. You are another hero. Another hero 2025. We are back. We're back for good. And today's agenda, we're briefly going to look over the Forest defeat because we haven't done so on a podcast yet. We're going to talk about Bournemouth. Obviously, Everton, big game on Saturday. Is it a must-win? Plenty of other tidbits to discuss. Neal Maupay, Sean Dyche didn't want to speak about him yesterday, but we will briefly talk about him. We'll talk about Jack Harrison. If we've got time, we'll talk about Wayne Rooney. He's been, I don't think that the phrase is he's been sacked, but he's left Plymouth by mutual consent, former Everton player. So we'll take a look at that if we've got time, and the usual predictions as well, and team selections. So stay with us for the duration, whether you're watching live or whether you're listening via Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Stay with us throughout. As always, give us a thumbs up and drop us a like as well. And as always, subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. We'll get straight into it then, Chris. We'll start with you. A defeat for Everton against Forest. Obviously, it was a good couple of days away now. You can read all the, analysis, reaction, all your player ratings, I guess, on the Liverpool Echo website from the past couple of days. But in terms of a podcast, we haven't discussed it. Yeah. So I guess the question from me is, was this a damaging defeat in the sense that, we haven't won since Wolves? Or was it a defeat against a high-flying top team in Nottingham Forest? What in terms of the balance, how would you look at it?
Yeah. It was, like you say, both really. I mean, it was a game that I was expecting Everton to get some from, because no doubt about it, Forest are a different animal this season than they were a year ago. I mean, Joe and I were at the City Ground in start of December last year, and obviously Everton went into that fixture, bottom of the Premier League table, after the points reduction and then the 3-0 defeat to United. And that was the start of their revival, wasn't it? The 4 wins on the trot, and they were able to sort of look a class apart from Forest that day. And obviously we saw the 2-0 in April at Goodison. That was the start of the survival there, 3 wins in a week, which saw Everton secure their Premier League status. But Forest have been, undoubtedly the surprise package of this season. They'd already got more points and more wins this season than they got the whole of last season. So perhaps we should have been a bit more wary about that. But what was disappointing for me was for all that they'd done well to get those admirable hat-trick of consecutive draws against high-flying Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, albeit obviously City are out of sorts, but when you've got to go and when the emphasis is back on Everton to attack, they were badly found out again in terms of lack of ideas, and Forest picked them off with a couple of goals which were very good from Forest's point of view, but were far too easy, I thought, from Everton's point of view. A nice exchange of passes, Wood for the goal, and then the finish. You see, obviously, the man in form, and then obviously the second one, getting that bit of space from Decore, Morgan Gibbs-White, and just finishing that one. So a couple of good goals from Forest, but it was far too easy for them, for Everton. And I said so many times this season at Goodison, just seem to chronically lack ideas going forward when the emphasis is on Everton to attack. They're found badly wanting, and that was the case again.
I mean, Gav, but the preview podcast that we did last Friday, we did say it was going to be a tough game. Yeah. I don't think we thought we were, going to go to Goodison Park and roll Forest over. I think everyone was maybe expecting a bit more, as always, when you go to Goodison Park. I think what struck me in the days following, and you've just brought it up before we went on air, there's some of the comments made by Sean Dyche. The big worry for me that he said himself, he thought we dominated Nottingham Forest in the second half.
Yeah.
And, he did use that phrase. It's not like he's been misquoted or anything like that.
No, I heard it this morning. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a worry for you that the manager thinks we dominated Forest?
It depends what he means by dominated. If you're talking about having possession and having control of the game, I can see why you would say that. But domination is a little bit more than that. It normally involves things like goals, doesn't it? Yeah. Chances, putting the opponents under pressure, and pegging them back. And we didn't do any of that, did we, really? We didn't have an attempt on goal till that was saved, I think, on target, the 81st minute. That doesn't strike me as a dominating second half performance, does it, really? If you saw them like having the ball and stuff, well, yeah, okay, but as Chris alluded to, in the final third, our attacking has been woeful, wasn't it? And it was again on Sunday. So if Dyche just means passing and possession, possibly, but all the other metrics of the game and what you're looking at wasn't. And indeed, at the end, we were lucky not to concede 2 or 3 more, weren't we? But for the Jord making a couple of good saves, it could have been far more careful, couldn't it, really? So, yeah, there was a few things that Dyche said in the press conference yesterday that people rightly or wrongly picked up on. That you could the domination thing, you can interpret it in many different ways, but from my perspective, it wasn't a domination Forest in the second half, and I just thought we were poor, and I thought everything was a bit flat. I thought the crowd was flat, maybe the timing of the fixture, and I just thought that, you know, what we don't do well, and I was going to mention this is, and you know, when you're there, you understand, you hear stuff, don't you, what people say, and you know, at the moment, not a lot you could actually say on the podcast, but you know, one of the things was I always hear that we had to support him all the time when we know one of our players in possession. Normally from race, he just sits to the left of me, but what we don't do very well when we have got the ball is support the player in possession. You know, we don't give options. You know, there was one bit in the second half, I think Henzi had the ball by the corner flag, and Mikalenko was just looking at him about like 30 or 40 yards away. It was the nearest Everton player. He was just looking at him, didn't run over to support him, to give him an option. And we just don't do that very well when the players in possession, particularly in the final third or in the middle of the pitch, we don't offer options at all.
Is that quality of players or messages, instructions from the manager?
I think it's a bit of everything, isn't it, really? You would expect, I think messages and the way the team's set up, you know, it's functioning as a unit, and we don't move as a 10, outfield 10, up the pitch very well, for me, into the opponent's final third. That's something that I think is, I think that's coaching, players' ability, confidence, all that type of stuff. Is we don't do that very well, and we don't give the man in possession enough options when they've got the ball, and that's why we end up losing it, and that's why we end up having like 30-40% possession in games, and that was just so apparent on Sunday, and that was reflected in a lot of the comments in the crowd by me, and we must do better there, because it's beginning to hurt us a little bit, isn't it, really? And the other take from the weekend is, and we spoke about this I think on the pod before Christmas, is we're only one bad weekend from being in the relegation zone, aren't we? And that's just happened, hasn't it? With Ipswich winning, Wolves taking 7 points for 3 games, and Palace are pulling away a little bit, haven't they? They've had a few good results. West Ham, I know they got beat by Liverpool, have had a few good results. I think they've taken 8 points from 4 games before then, and all of a sudden what looks like 6 or 7 clubs 2 or 3 weeks ago is now looking like 4, isn't it? And 4 or 5, and that's the concern I've got, and with us having a few tough fixtures coming up as well. So yeah, that's my main take from the weekend. It's as much about what was going on elsewhere really than just what was going on at Goodison and teams' trajectories. Just
to touch upon what you said, I completely agree with everything that you've just said. I mean, is it no surprise, because in terms of how we set up so defensively, you'd have to say 9 of the 11 players are on that pitch for their defensive attributes rather than their attacking attributes. You've obviously got Pickford, the back 4.
Yeah.
Then you've got Mangala and Guy, who, rightly or wrongly, I think that they should be the 2 at this moment in time. That's fine. But they're there for their defensive capabilities. Then you've got Decore, who is definitely in there for his defensive attributes. We've said that in the past.
He does bring something up in the final third at his best.
He does, but he's so deep as well.
Yeah.
You know, we've said it in the past how isolated Calvert-Lewin can be, or whoever plays up front can be. The only 2 players really who are looking to do anything in an attacking sense for me is Ndiaye and Calvert-Lewin, because even Harrison's there for his defensive, you know, attributes.
Yeah, and he's there to put crosses in. I mean, that was the other take, wasn't it, from Sunday? Our crossing, like it has been for a number of weeks, was absolutely woeful, wasn't it? It was you know, it was schoolboy stuff, and I thought even
Young was poor with the crosses. Even though he's been good the past couple of weeks.
First man and stuff, and it was kids stuff, and that was the other take, wasn't it? I mean, people said like Patterson did okay when he came on, which I actually think he looked okay and instant. But the game had changed by then. Forest had gone 2-0 up, hadn't they?
Yeah, they're letting us have the ball.
They let us have the ball, letting us have the ball out wide. They weren't really bothered about moving forward that much, and so there was a bit more opportunities for us to push forward. They were just quite happy to sit in, and they defended very well. So I wouldn't read too much into the third. Patterson came on, looked really good, got a few crosses in, added a little bit extra that we didn't have before. That was purely, I think, because of the state of the game and what Forest wanted us to do. I'm not sure that translates into getting him on for 90 minutes, though he is obviously an option. So it was it felt a bit flat. You know what it felt like, and this is one of the games I've done for Martinez, I think, is, you know, we beat Chelsea 2-0 in March 2016, the night game at Goodison on the Saturday night. It was a great game, wasn't it, when Lukaku scored twice. We played Arsenal the following Saturday, Goodison, a lunchtime game. And and it was a similar type of atmosphere to Sunday, and we got beat 2-0 and we were well off it. And Martinez, that was when it started to really dip for Martinez, and he got himself into problems. And you hope that that's not going to be the same for Dyche. Ironically, against the club he's associated with, and he likes to mention their former players like he did yesterday in press conferences. I just hope it doesn't do the same for Dyche, because he needs to have a rethink, I think, over how we play. But we've got to support the player in possession a lot more than what we did on Sunday, I think.
I mean, what I was saying there, and what you were saying, Ian, in terms of the attacking players. I mean, Broyers looks good when he's come on. He's come lively, but then he suffered from what Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been suffering for weeks and weeks and weeks now. It's okay when you come on and defences are stretched, defences are tiring, and then you've got a bit of extra energy, which has happened with Broyer. But when he had to do that DCL job from the beginning, from the kickoff, it's like it's the same again. All those same issues that Calvert-Lewin's been facing, Broyer was facing them, and it's almost like, I think that Michael Ball say in his column, we could have Erling Haaland up from Everton and he'd be facing the same issues, and that's the problem, isn't it? That's why Calvert-Lewin's gone, whatever it is, 13, 14 games without a goal, went 23, whatever it was last season. It's not so much him a detriment. I mean, he sometimes struggles to create his own chances, and I remember Broyer sort of got one towards the end of the first half on his left foot. But yeah, a lot of those issues were there, and it makes you wonder, we go down to Bournemouth. I mean, you put Calvert-Lewin back in, or you stick with Broyer? Because either way, it's going to be the same issues for whoever's leading the line in this Everton side.
No, it's spot on, and we know Sean Dyche doesn't particularly like to experiment, certainly during mid-season anyway. I've heard a couple of people suggesting, we always have this debate, who should play the number 10, who should play on the right. For me, Sean Dyche doesn't necessarily select the team. I know that sounds crazy because he's the manager, so he does. But what I mean is, if someone's not playing well, he'll just take them out and he'll just put the same in. It's very like for like, isn't it?
Predictably like for like.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's not like he's tweaking anything massively tactically or anything like that.
The same.
Yeah, it's all it's rigid. I think it's been described as a lot over the past couple of weeks, hasn't it?
We talk about this a lot. I mean, what options has he got? It's very limited.
But when it's not working,
okay,
it worked against City, Arsenal and Chelsea, but we know why that worked.
Yeah.
Against Forest, who are just having this, insane season. Yeah. When you go 1-0 down, you gotta try something a little bit different. And it was just like for like. I know we did end up with two strikers on the pitch in the end, didn't we?
But the game had changed by then, hadn't it?
And even that doesn't seem to work for us anyway, does it really?
Yeah. No, because you lose people in midfield and you've got to get decent balls in, don't you? Mikalenko, I thought that he was poor on Sunday. It's the Calvert-Lewin one's interesting, and I told him before we came on here, there was an interesting discussion about him in the press conference yesterday, and Dyche was saying, I thought it was quite an interesting comment, that he's spoken to Dominic about his game and stuff, and I can't remember the exact, I'm paraphrasing here, he said, his underlying stats were fine, and I was thinking, the one stat one from Calvert-Lewin is his goals. To say he's not scored since September, but maybe what Dyche was alluding to there is something that what Chris was talking about there is, I know he's not scoring. This is Dyche now. I know he's not scoring goals, but the reason for that is what you're saying, Chris. But apart from that, his headers won and retain possession and passes stats and all that are okay. He's running a lot. That type of stuff. Which is sort of fluffy, isn't it? Really. Dyche is happy with, and maybe Dyche, in saying that, was effectively admitting to the fact actually we're not giving the striker enough here to work from. Apart from that, he's doing okay. What we want from a striker though is goals, and Browy coming in, I get like it's a similar type of setup, but he has got a little bit more about him. I think, as a player with the ball.
He certainly struggled against Forest.
Absolutely.
As Chris said,
absolutely.
It was very much the same as when Dominic Calvert-Lewin
you're talking about Haaland. I mean, that's some of the things that happened to Haaland, hasn't it? In City's bad run. Haaland only touches the ball 23, 24 times a game.
He's not involved a lot, is he, when he's not scoring? He's just such a good scorer.
He's ineffective, isn't he, when it's not going for City? And it was just an interesting thing from what Dyche was saying, and maybe yesterday was just indirectly admitting that actually we haven't done enough for Calvert-Lewin, but that's on Dyche as well. He also made an interesting point again about whether we should have an attacking coach, which is about the point was made to him. He didn't make that point. He was asked that question. I think he turned that down, which I can see why. I don't like the idea of attacking coaches and stuff and defensive coaches.
A lot of people speak about it on social media, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's he's a stubborn manager to a point, isn't he? He would be admitting defeat in effect if he brings someone in.
Yeah, he'd be admitting to his own weaknesses. He said there's like whatever he is, a FIFA Pro license holder, that that covers all like that type of work, and so I agree with him on that. I think also as well, when you talk about bringing an attacking coach in, it's like football's not like American football, the defence and attack and stuff. It's fluid, isn't it? So when during a game or during training, does the attacking coach's influence stop, and the rest of the other coaches start? That'll just confuse players, wouldn't it? Right? Yeah. So I listen to one voice in this position, and then listen to another voice in that position. That's just it's just nonsense, all that. I think, but we need to do something a little bit more, and one of it is get moving as a unit. We're not moving as a unit, I think, up the pitch very well, and we're leaving a lot of space as a consequence, and that's hurting us. And Forest took advantage of that.
We're talking about players contributing from an attacking point of view. I mean, Jack Harrison's had Jesper Lindstrom come in this season, and increased competition. We're always hearing now that's good for players to have that increased competition. But between them, not an assist or a goal, between them, obviously, Harrison got hooked at the weekend. I mean, I spoke to Sean Dyche ahead of that game after City, and he missed another big chance there, hadn't he? Jack Harrison didn't quite know what to do at the end there. Big misses against Wolves and against Chelsea, and he just felt it was only a small detail again in his play, again going back to maybe those underlying stats, that he was very happy with his work rate and his contributions elsewhere. But for whatever reason, it's not happened for Jack Harrison, and you've got to hope that having Lindstrom in there would have helped him raise his game, and the two of them would feed off each other. But it's not been the case. Lindstrom seemed to offer a bit more coming on again, but as we've already said, that was when the game changed, and Everton were getting more of the ball. So it's been a real problem position when you've got one of those, what is ostensibly an attacking area, the right winger, and you're not getting anything in the final third in terms of tangible results from either of them.
This is good point, isn't it? I mean, sorry, I think it's a point worth mentioning, isn't it? I don't like player stats. I know it's like that. I mean, I think they're overused and stuff, and this is one of the consequences of it. What a coach sees in a player now, in terms of their performances, and what is completely different to what a spectator sees, isn't it? What a spectator sees is effort, desire, all that type of thing. Getting in the right positions and all that. But they're the type of stuff that player statistics don't quantify, do they? They just quantify passes made and challenges won and stuff like this. When you're watching something for 90 minutes, you're looking at all the stuff that goes on more often off the ball, but the sorts of things that statistics don't quantify. It's about like players supporting other players in possession. Well, where's the stat?
Yeah,
for that, what I mean.
You can't show that.
You can't show that, that. But that was so obvious for me on Sunday, and this is why I think statistics they skew people's views of matches, and I think from the coaching side, I don't think it's particularly healthy, and because what coaches now want off players, I think, is slightly different to what it was 34 years ago. Like their key metrics, don't they, and stuff, like all the type of thing you'd have in, I don't know, science lab or something, and I don't think that's particularly healthy, and I think that I think that's it leads to an unhealthy relationship, and you see that now, don't you, between how our spectator views the game and how a coach views a player's performance. Two completely different things now, where years ago I think it was pretty much the same, and it was just an interesting comment I thought by Dyche yesterday, that he was happy with Calvert-Lewin's numbers. I hate that phrase, just numbers. What like, you know?
I
you know what I mean? You know that's what I mean. I think that's why people, just generally speaking, spectators become frustrated with coaches and managers who see things far more scientifically than what they used to do. But as a spectator, you don't see this game as a science, do you? You know.
Well, he obviously seen the game a lot different to everyone else with his comments about dominating in the second half. I would just like him to be a little bit more proactive. He's certainly been a lot more proactive when it comes to his substitutions. And even that to an extent, he's only really doing the bare minimum. He's bringing players on early for a Sean Dyche sub, in effect. He's bringing them on when we need them to come on. But it's like the point that I was trying to make before. He only makes changes when, say use Harrison example, his position becomes untenable in the team on the right hand side, because when did he come back in for? Was it Arsenal? Or did he come back in for Wolves?
When McNeil was injured, wasn't he?
Came on at Wolves, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, so was it the following
it gets to a point where, Lindstrom's been awful for like 2 or 3 games. Let's bring Jack Harrison in, and you forget how bad Jack Harrison was 6-7 games ago. And then when Jack Harrison's bad, it's like, we'll bring Lindstrom back in, and then we'll see how he does.
By comparison, yeah.
And it's like it's the exact same with Breuer and Beto. It's the exact same. Is the scope for bringing Breuer as bringing him in as the number 10, Chris, or would you play him on the right? Just try something different.
I don't see how he plays as a Sean Dyche number 10, as it were. Unfortunately, we're looking for ways, aren't we, trying to get more goals in the team. But as we said, for those other reasons, even though it was the bedrock of his decade at Burnley, 4-4-2 just doesn't work for Dyche at Everton, because they need that extra man in midfield. That's why Decore's been reinvented. I think Joe used the phrase, or maybe he was paraphrasing Paddy Boyland, I don't know. But either way, as Decore is a 6 in an advanced role, that's what he was doing. And we say, he'll get Breuer in, this is an extra attacker, but I just don't see how it works. With various times, usually when they're chasing games like Forest, where they've gone 2 up, and it just they just look like they've never played as a combination at all for me. I don't know.
It just doesn't going to work with this formation that he's playing now.
Well, it's not weird. Well, you're talking about it from a tackling sense. Yeah. No, because that's just factored in our goals tally, isn't it? More specifically, our goals tally from open play, which is what was it, the whole 2024, 14, 15 goals from open play in 38 matches. And the worrying thing for Dyche is the set pieces, which used to be a staple of his strategy, they've gone down.
Especially while McNeil's out the side as
well. And that's a consequence. Bob, we've not scored in 7, 9 out of 9, is it? 8, something like that? 8 out of 10?
I'd have to double check.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? We've not scored a lot of goals, and that's the concern, isn't it, really? Defensively, I think we've been okay, and that's reflected in the stats, but the stats also reflect the paucity of our attack and play.
But the problem is, defensively, when it goes well, you can reap some, rewards to an extent, but when it goes wrong, it goes badly wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it went badly wrong on at least 2 occasions on Sunday. I mean, I thought Tarkowski's performance is well worth discussing, isn't it, really? Just generally this season, I think he's been way below where he was last season, and I thought you saw that on Sunday. He lost Wood for the first goal, didn't he? Wood starts running towards goal, and Tarkowski's like 3 or 4 yards behind him, gives him a free header, and I thought he should have taken control of the situation far better for the second goal, where the ball was just allowed to drift into an open space, wasn't it, from Decore, and Tarkowski should have showed a bit more leadership there and just got the ball. And some would say he was lucky to stay on the pitch, and I think that's also that was frustrating, because he's been, in those 3 matches he's been okay, I think, Tarkowski.
Mikalenko's starting to.
I mean,
he's worried me anyway, and I've openly said I don't think he's good enough, but he's really starting to worry me now. I mean,
there's a lack of alternatives, isn't it? Because Ashley Young is the only real sort of alternative there, and he's been doing well generally at right back. And for whatever reason, as we said, Sean Dyche doesn't fancy Patterson, and then Coleman, obviously magnificent servant that he is just 1 game in, 1 game out now, unfortunately. So
injured again.
Young's needed at right back, as it were. So there's nowhere to come over at left back. I have to wait and see. Maybe it's a difficult one buying in January. Mikalenko himself and Patterson were both January signings, of course. But whether there is any money in there for them to do any business in January, Joe wrote, I know earlier this week, that they're hoping that those PSR issues will finally be behind them. They'll find out later this month, and whether they could do some business, because I think if you're looking at that team now, as much as we're talking about attacking areas, I think right wing, which we've discussed, and left back are the two areas with big question marks for me.
We'll finish off on Forest then, Chris, but just what did you make of Dyche's comments with regards to, he said the team didn't follow the instructions? I mean, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth to the players there. I found it strange, really, because I thought the first half was no different to what Everton have conjured up over the past, couple of months. So was he trying to do something different and the players just couldn't follow the instructions?
I don't know what those instructions were. Like you say, it's all, he can make things fit to how he wants it to sound like. It was all Forest did to us, what they've done to so many teams so far this season. It was interesting, actually, because, again, going back to pre-match, I'd spoken to him in the embargo section at the Etihad after that game, and I spoke about the recent upturn in form, which it obviously had been in relative terms going into that Forest game. And on that occasion, he was full of praise for the players. It's all on the players, he said. It's all down to the players. So to be fair, he sung their praises in terms of getting those decent results that he'd had earlier in the month. So maybe he did feel let down in that respect, So he had been building them up before the game. So yeah, but I don't know what those instructions were that they had supposedly hadn't followed, because as much as it was frustrating for us to see, I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't really surprised. I don't think I saw a lot that surprised us, unfortunately, in that respect. It was a typical display from this team in many ways, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, and the other thing I'd say there, if they did follow his instructions in the second half, there wasn't a lot of difference between the first half and second half performances, was there really? Maybe it was about defensive discipline, possibly.
But we've said Forest let us have the ball anyway. They were trying to get us on the counter-attack.
I thought they were decent. It's hard to think. What did we finish?
Maybe it was like you said about Tarkowski getting...
Yeah, maybe,
goal,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been about marking Chris Wood. I'm not sure. It's hard to think, isn't it? Did we finish effectively 16 points ahead of Forest last year or something like that, wasn't it?
I know what it was.
They were down there.
Big turnaround. I think they only got 30-odd points, didn't they? Early 30s, so shows you.
I mean, we're talking a lot about the comments Sean Dyche has made over the past week. Is this podcast is named Dyche Dealing with Pressure. Is he feeling the pressure, do you think, with some of the comments that he's making, or are we just looking too much into it?
I think we look too much into it. I think when a manager's under pressure, and I think Dyche, being the type of personality he is, I think every line is analysed, isn't it, really, and then, discussed, which we've done on this podcast, but I like to think you do it in a balanced way. I think sometimes we can overanalyse it, but I do think there's a few good questions and a few good discussion points from yesterday's press conference, really, that were worthy of bringing up here, around like Calvert-Lewin stats and what we're saying, dominating the second half and stuff. I think you're obliged to discuss it, but overall I think people read too much into these things, really. As for pressure, he doesn't look like, say, Koeman, in his dark days, like where
there's not been that comparison photo, has there, from when he started?
Yeah.
He just looks the same anyway.
Martinez, he didn't look well, didn't he? And I don't know, probably the same with
not
Silva.
like Amarin now as well, a month into the job. Have you seen that comparison picture?
I don't know, is he...
He does look not as handsome, maybe, is the way to use
that
it.
That 4-0 defeat's looking worse week by week as well at Old Trafford.
But physically, Dyche doesn't look... he doesn't look like a man under pressure, does he, really? Compared to some of his predecessors who didn't look well, to be honest with you, because that's what management does to you.
Yeah.
But it may come out a couple of times in his comments, but I wouldn't. It didn't strike me as somebody who's feeling the pinch at this stage.
We'll see what happens after Bournemouth.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, which we will talk about. Amarin just didn't look as glowing as he once did when he first came. We'll move on. Right. Let's not digress. Chris, you did a piece on Jack Harrison and the loan situation.
Yeah.
And I think Leeds give a comment about that, or
no? It was actually a Leeds fan site, and I actually had it stood up that they were talking nonsense, basically. They were talking about, from a Leeds point of view,
recalling him back.
They said that, if Everton were to get another right winger, and for whatever reason Harrison drops down the pecking order, then Leeds could recall him because it would be better for them to keep the players' value up, and it could actually contribute to their championship push. But yeah, I understand there is no recall clause from a Leeds United point of view. We haven't said from the Everton point of view. I've not, in terms of there's a break clause, but certainly Leeds can't take control of the situation in that they can't recall him. So no, so because obviously Everton, as it stands, obviously they're only allowed the 2 domestic loans which they've got with him and Broja. So if they were to bring another player in on loan, I know it's been discussed in recent days about Philogene, the player who they were linked with in the summer, ended up going to Villa, and then predictably hasn't been as big a part of their plans. If they get to him or anyone else on loan, you'd either have to turn Broja or Harrison into a permanent or cut them. But certainly from a Leeds point of view, yeah, there's no scope for Leeds to recall them. There's no break clause.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of speculation about whether Everton should break the loan deal for Jack Harrison with Leeds.
I see it happen. No. I mean, he's from. I know he's struggling, but I think he is a valued member of the squad for Sean Dyche. I think they'd see. I would imagine they'd see it through. And I also don't imagine they'll turn it into a permanent either. I can't see that one happening.
I mean, whether his form's good or bad or whatever, indifferent, I think Dyche would see that as quite disrespectful to do that to a player that he obviously thinks highly of as well. So I'd be very surprised if that is an option for Sean Dyche to break the loan deal for Harrison.
I think he probably wants a little bit of stability there, doesn't he? He's obviously a player he trusts, and yeah, I can't see that happening. It was just an interesting story how rumours fly down, isn't it? That yesterday, I think, you know, before you know it, like starts off possibility then, and Harrison's go back to Leeds. Obviously not for yourself, like, you know. Yeah. But it was just an interesting little sideline. I can't see that happening now.
Okay, let's quickly talk about Neal Maupay. We might as well, because we haven't addressed it. I know we've done articles on it, Chris, but we haven't addressed it on the podcast. What did you make when you first saw that tweet? Disappointing?
Yeah, of course it's disappointing. Again, it's unfortunately it's not surprising given the way that he is. He's a wind-up merchant, but I know people who've spoken to him. I never spoke to him personally. For all his spiky persona on the pitch, he's actually quite a thoughtful individual, it seemed. I think, I can't remember the circumstances of it. He basically pointed out to somebody that he enjoyed reading. Literature is a big part of his leisure time, and he was taken aback that some of the journalists thought that this was a surprising pursuit for a footballer to be into books. So I don't know what type of literature this was, but you know, he sees himself as a learned individual in that respect. I don't know if he's read the end. Maybe he could do him some good there, Gav.
Absolutely.
Teach him, but it's somebody who is still okay. We all know he's never going to pull on that royal blue jersey again, but as we speak, he's still technically an Everton an employee. So yeah, it was stupid. He's obviously been hurt, hasn't he? The stuff at Euston Station, and there's obviously a few unsavoury remarks which have stayed with him. But yeah, it's just totally unnecessary, and unfortunately, it's not the first time with him. I mean, I don't know what the club said, weren't they? Were dealing with it internally, and Dyche said that there wouldn't be a fine or whatever. Did he say that? I think so, but
I just don't think he wanted to speak about it, did he? It was very abrupt, cutting off Vinnie O'Connor at the press conference.
Yeah, but I mean, there's mitigating circumstances why it happened in terms of Neal Maupay being a failure at Everton, but yeah, for a striker to get, you know, he didn't get the support. He wasn't the type of striker they should have brought in. But you know, 1 goal in whatever 30 odd matches, whatever he finished on. You know, it's all down to his own failures there. His failure to deliver, and he's shown himself to be not worthy of playing at Everton Football Club. He's for whatever reason, he's one of the biggest and most expensive flops in the club's history.
I mean, Joe did a piece, Gav, on it. So obviously saying something along the lines, he was obviously disappointed with the tweet because obviously he received a lot of abuse, didn't he, from certain corners of the fan base, and the club defended him or backed him, you know, protected him. I guess I'd say that would be the case. So in a way, that tweet is probably directly aimed at the fans rather than the actual club itself.
I don't know. You'd have to ask him that, really. I think Dyche was quite within his rights just to shut it down yesterday. I mean, there's bigger things, isn't it, for us to...
it's an irrelevant topic for him, isn't it? We can speak about it, but...
Yeah, it probably reflects more on Maupay as an individual than the club. There was an interesting point made about the commercial opportunities of a player with a large following, getting a lot of social media hits, was the amount of times being, retweeted or whatever the phrase is and liked and stuff. There is some commercial opportunities there, but I just don't take any notice of it. I thought he was, he's spiky, obviously, and that can be a good thing in a player sometimes. But I just thought it was, personally, thought it was poor and disrespectful. But there's bigger things for us to be concerned as a fan base. More pertinently, tomorrow's game.
Shall we talk about that then?
Yeah, finally get around to it.
Yeah.
Where are we now? We're not doing too bad. We're about 40 minutes in.
Well, we've got 37 minutes left there compared to the two previous podcasts. Yeah,
Shall we
halfway through.
Not today. Not when I'm going to drive down
today,
to Dorset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Can you on in the car? You could. Yeah.
We'll get on.
Time.
Yeah.
We'll get on to that then, because obviously you and Joe are heading down to Bournemouth, leaving around 2:00 this afternoon. So a big drive, staying over as well. So it's massive, Chris, to be honest, isn't it? Because let's face it, we've got the cup on Thursday, and then even after that, it's 2 tough games. Even though Villa and Tottenham have probably been a little bit hit and miss lately, but they are home games as well. So, I mean, when you look at this Bournemouth game again, it's very similar to the Forest game, because usually it's a game you think we can at least pick up a point, or we maybe even be able to get a win. Bournemouth are 7th, I think, now, aren't they? Absolutely flying. Their manager has transformed Bournemouth, and let's face it, I don't think any of us have got over the home game this season yet. So, how'd you see it, basically?
Yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, I've written the Royal Blue column for the morning, so that check out that one. And obviously, a few points that I'll discuss now, sort of mentioned in there. But like you say, I think many Evertonians in their whole life haven't experienced a chastening experience as those last few minutes against Bournemouth at home. I mentioned in that. I mean, I'm usually up there in the press box with Gav and all, but it was a rare day off for me. I was there with my 3 children, supposedly as a treat for Goodison's last season, and for 85
what a terrible
minutes.
Father. Terrible father.
It was. So it was. It was like, I think I've heard somebody this week saying it was like watching sort of like a car crash in slow motion, or you could see it all unfolding in front of our eyes, and for whatever reason, the players and the coaching staff, the manager, were unable to stop that from happening. And on the flip side of it, the Vitality Stadium has not been a happy hunting ground for Everton as well. I was there the first season they were in the Premier League, and that crazy free all draw. Everton go 2-0 up again. Bournemouth pull it back to 3-3 in the last 10 minutes, and then Ross Barkley puts Everton back ahead 3-2 deep into stoppage time. There's euphoria, the fans are on the pitch, the away fans, and you think, oh, they've got away with one here. And Bournemouth go down the other end and equalise again, 98th minute, and could have won it then. And since then, Everton haven't won a Premier League game at Bournemouth. I know they won there in the FA Cup, but yeah, they've not won. They've not picked up 3 points at the Vitality Stadium. Joe and I were there last year.
The Coleman on goal.
Yeah, so that result ensured they went between Christmas and Easter without winning a Premier League game. And even if Beto's equaliser had counted, they'd have still gone with that stat would have been rung true as well. So yeah, it's been a difficult play. And to be fair, Bournemouth fans get behind their team, but it's the smallest ground in the Premier League. It's smaller than Prenton Park. It shouldn't be intimidating to go down there, as good as those Bournemouth fans are. It's a bit inexplicable, really, that Everton have never won a Premier League game now. But yeah, it won't be a better time to start than now, because Everton have gone into the new year just 2 points above the drop zone. I don't know in terms of a must win for like I say, a venue they've never won at in the Premier League, but a must not lose in terms of, and then it's sort of you're looking over your shoulder what's going on elsewhere. Really, it's a difficult one, really, but they really do need to rise to the occasion, because they for all those draws have been positive. To be so close to the drop zone now, as I think Gav said earlier, because of what Wolves have done recently, and Ipswich Town with their shock win over Chelsea, all of a sudden, it's a massive fixture.
I feel like every time we preview a pod, I say to you, whoever's on, you guys will go, how do we manage to get a point? How do we manage to get 3 points? What does Sean Dyche do? Knowing full well that he's not going to do much different. Much different.
Do what he's done every other.
I do feel like it's redundant in a way, me asking the question. But if we get beat, Gav, is the pressure like severely on Sean Dyche, heading into the cup game?
I don't think that the problem's the cup game is the fact that they've got 11 days then to the next league game, haven't they? That's quite a big gap, isn't
Tuesday,
it? Really?
Wednesday,
The Wednesday afterwards, I think it is. So it's quite a big time, and the start of January, if you think when previous managers have left the club, it's heading to that period, isn't it? Really, in the last 4 or 5 years, I suspect as long as we're outside of the relegation zone, I think he's all right. To be fair, so we could be dependent on the results going on elsewhere. To be fair, it's a game of which we're eminently capable of getting something tomorrow, but it goes back to whether we can score goals, isn't it? I mean, at some point we've got to win a game, haven't we? Really. And I know I've said before,
love that quote. At some point we've got to win a game.
Well, yeah, it is though, isn't it? I know I've said about like Dyche playing the percentages this season. It's quite obvious that's the case, isn't it? That if 32, 33 keeps you up, you can only win seven games and draw a hell of a lot of games and stay up. We've won 3. But you've still got to win a game, and that doesn't look likely at the moment because we're not scoring goals. And I mean, there's a danger, isn't there, for Dyche? Is if results go against us elsewhere and we get beaten, and Bournemouth has been not the best place, regardless of that Martinez debacle, not being the best place as for managers over the last few years. I'm thinking about Frank here, both in league and
graveyard for him.
Yeah, it could become a difficult position if he's in the relegation zone. Yeah. Come the start, come Sunday, Monday, and we then got 11 days to the next league fixture. So and then we've got 2 difficult ones. Then we've got Villa and Spurs. It's not ideal. So it's a big game for him. On the upside, we could win. Another teams could get beat, and you're 4 or 5 points out of the top zone then. So it could be a pivotal fixture for him in many different ways, I think.
Bournemouth actually haven't, in the last 5, they've drawn 3 and won 2.
Yeah.
So they're in good form, relatively speaking.
Yeah, but they're a good team, aren't they? Well coached.
You surprised that, what's his name, Areola? He's done...
Not from I remember when he joined this, my mate who follows Spanish football said he's a really, really good coach.
Top coach.
Yeah. And I believe, pitch side, he's excellent from people who've watched him. There's a little bit there of when Pochettino went to Southampton, wasn't it, where they got rid of Atkins, didn't he? He was doing a decent job.
Yeah.
And they brought Pochettino in.
Yeah.
And then he moved upwards and onward.
We got rid of O'Neill for him,
quickly.
didn't he?
They got rid of O'Neill. They went, well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they're obviously having a similar impact, similar style manager, and similar football. So it was a brave decision. You think, why have they done that? But it's obviously paid off in dividends after. I mean, and it is that's a good example of what happens if you stay with your coach, because remember we beat them last year. It was a 3-0 at Goodison. I don't think they won all season, had they? Bournemouth.
They were looking like he was out of his depth.
And then all of a sudden switched it around. They did okay the rest of the season. They kicked on this year, and with the style of play that people can associate with, and a lot of time for him. I think he's somebody who will go places, But I think for all that, I think we're capable of dragging a point off. Do you think Dyche should take a 0-0 tomorrow?
Yeah, I do.
I think you take that most of the time, but
I think you absolutely,
No, but
I think I think he'd take a 0-0 tomorrow, wouldn't he, all day long? Might just buy him a bit of breathing space.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll come on to team selection and predictions, but just a few other tidbits I wanted to speak about. Wayne Rooney has obviously left Plymouth by mutual consent. I mean, really, obviously, I'm bringing this up, he's a former Everton player, but I thought I could try and link it in with,
Trying to get him in as that attacking coach.
Well, you never know, do you? No, I just think why isn't it work for Rooney? And on the bigger picture, why does it not work for a lot of former world class players as managers? No, it hasn't.
Another whole
Lampard,
podcast,
Steven Gerrard. Obviously, you're right. It is another full podcast in itself. But I mean, just touching on Rooney first.
We'll do it in 30 seconds. No, I think great players often don't make great managers. I must admit, when Benitez was sacked as Everton manager, I was thinking that Rooney was a decent shout at the time. He was doing a good job under very difficult circumstances at Derby County at the time. But it's just not worked out for him. He took on a lot of difficult jobs since then. DC United, he wasn't able to turn them around, and obviously Birmingham was awful last season, and he leaves Plymouth with them bottom of the table. Actually saw Colleen and the boys were at Goodison for the Forest game, and Wayne was obviously preparing for his fixture with Plymouth, but. I think I think it is difficult if you're a great player. What comes easy to you? Imparting that knowledge to lesser players who are unable to do that. I mean, a lot of the top managers haven't been top players, and by the flip side of it, a lot of the top players don't make great managers. You get these jobs because you've got your reputation as a player, and we've sort of seen with Lampard, he's getting another chance at Coventry City now. See how that one pans out. But it's difficult to see where Wayne goes after this. I mean, we'd love to hear his thoughts on Goodison Park, my home, before the end of the season. Now he's available, so we'll plug that one off. So all joking apart, he'd be terrific. But again, it's a totally different ball game, isn't it? When you're a manager compared to a player, and I think that is difficult. If things come natural to you as a great natural talent, which he was, one of the last great street footballers, Rooney. Sort of as much as he's been given all that tactical guidance, and he's played under some of the top managers himself, Moyes and Alex Ferguson as a player, perhaps it's a very difficult scenario bringing that on to lesser players. That would be my take in a nutshell.
No, fair enough. And I think you are right. I think the 3 jobs that he's taken on in this country anyway, they have been very tough jobs. I know Birmingham were doing okay, weren't they? And then it kind of dropped off. But Derby, with the finances. Yeah, with the finances. And Plymouth only just survived relegation, didn't they, the season before? I guess, question to you, Gav, is it not that he's going to fail as a manager. He's obviously had a tough time. But if he wants a future in football, do you think he would be better suited to be more of a coach, assistant manager, as Chris stated there, an attack and striker coach?
Not really. I mean, the punditry seats appear to be a far better option. I just think it's a bit sad. When you just go round from in the lower, all due respect, the lower regions of English football, managing clubs.
He obviously loves the game, no?
Yeah,
he wants
that's
to stay
obvious,
in it.
Isn't it? It goes back to being a street footballer, doesn't it, really? But I just think it's a bit sad, you see. I mean, I think it's a bit unfair on coaches who are not being great players, who don't get gigs because people are not as good as them or as promised them as managers because they've just got a bigger name, and that's always gone on to a degree. But I just think it's sad. I mean, it's a bit better than just like you doing job after job, outside the top flight. And
all due respect to Plymouth, you think he should have maybe waited for a bit of a higher?
I think it would have just ended in the same. It's a story as old as time, isn't it? Players don't make great managers by and large for lots of different reasons. Not just because of the ability gap, but because it's man management, isn't it? And then there's a wider thing in football, and that's gone on. It's gone on forever, hasn't it? I mean, the classic example of that, which you can all associate with, would be the Charlton brothers, wouldn't it? Really, I mean, Bobby's one of the greatest, possibly the greatest English footballer of all time. Hopeless as a manager. Jack was a very, very good centre half, a really good centre half. Look at his management career and how that panned out. And very few. I mean, Cruyff would be one. I mean, Guardiola was a great player, wasn't he? But I think it's stories all the time, isn't it? People like Benitez and Mourinho, they were teachers, weren't they?
Wenger,
Your mate, Arsene Wenger. Yeah, she was telling me. They have a completely different background. I mean, you see, Carsley was not, was a good player, but wasn't a great player. And he's obviously a very, very decent coach. Whether it turns out to management, I don't know. It's just a as I say, it's a long-running theme of football, isn't it? That one of the things, fortunately, that hasn't changed. Traditions hasn't, and the way the game's changed over the years hasn't changed. Has it really? Great players, by and large, do not make great managers. It's more often than not the opposite is true, isn't it? Really, you know.
Last one before team selection and predictions. You mentioned it before, but stadium test event.
Yeah.
Positive news.
Incredibly, isn't it? And the thought that there's actually going to be a game at the new stadium next month. Joe had that yesterday. Massive story, I think.
Monday, 19th of Feb, is that right?
The under 18s going to have 10,000 inside the ground. And then there's going to be another one, I think, with the under 21s and possibly a third one before the end of the season. So those 10,000 lucky few who'll be there, I said, in February watching a game obviously shows that things are going well. And the pitch as well, that was the big thing I took from that the pitch will be ready. Because as I know, obviously the fitting out of all the suites and stuff's happening now that the club have taken the keys officially from Lango Rock, so the construction's done, but so it's all the internal fittings now. But for it to be far enough ahead for them to do a trial game with 10,000 spectators in there next month can only be a good thing.
I've got me name in the ballot.
Yeah. When do you find out?
I don't know, to be honest. But obviously,
he's got 2 names in the ballot from that other season.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
it's all coming together now.
Yeah.
Is media going to be allowed in for that?
I don't know. Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Well, I think if you
trial for me and Joe.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted the 10,000 in the first, I think you drop out.
That's understandable, isn't it? Really. Yeah.
So I think pretty much, even if you don't get in for the first one, you've got a good chance of getting in for the second one, because it would total, is it 25 for the second one?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
So 35,000 people have effectively got.
That'll cover all of most of the season.
That's what I mean.
Off, wouldn't it, really?
That's fair enough, isn't it?
Then it really.
Chance,
Just is it a night game or a daytime game? Do you know?
The Monday, I don't know. It's Monday the 19th, so I assume that'll be a night game. And Leighton Baines is going to be the first ever
Everton manager,
apparently more, in a capacity of
He'll score the first goal there. Yeah,
quiz question there for Gav.
It
was going to be on pens. It's not going to be like Chelsea last season, is it?
Which then Everton player scored the first goal in New Wembley in 2007? Is a quiz question for you.
The Everton
Similar
player,
circumstances.
Are you asking me this question now?
Yeah.
At Wembley?
Yeah.
2007?
Do you want to tell it in 2007? Do you scored the first goal in New Wembley? So in similar circumstances in the sort of child event,
Is it in England, schoolboys?
See, this is.
I'm not going to give you the answer.
Jack Rodwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, start people. Imagine that scoring the first goal to new stadium.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Team selection, I guess. Chris, you're just gonna. What are we going to do?
I think generally it's going to be, because it looks like McNeil and Coleman aren't coming back. So the only thing for me is realistically would be right wing. I mean, does he drop Hardison down, but Lindstrom back in? That's probably what I do. Other than that, I can't see there being much change really. So yeah, I'd probably go with that one.
Simon, got it right. Rodwell. Sorry, I've only just seen that, Simon, as we are live.
There you go.
No changing of Mikalenko or anything like that for you, Chris?
Not with the. I know you'd say Patterson could come in and swap Young over, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. No. So yeah, you could see in theory you might want that to happen, but
he's not going. He won't do it really. Yeah. But all right, well, Brozier then. Sorry.
Yeah.
Does he stay in?
Yeah. What's it? Because that was the other thing. Was I think didn't Calvert-Lewin's partner have a little bit of a
spat?
Yeah, and about Dyche not playing, I believe. But I mean,
people on social media just need to put the phones away.
Is there an option here about the left back? Could you play Brandwaite there? He's has played there before, hasn't he? And bring another centre half in.
Crossed my mind before, actually. That.
Yeah. Because he has played there left back. Played very well last year. I think he played one of the games. That's just an option. If you're looking at options and improving the team, you have been very.
He's never going to do that.
No. But Mikalenko was all right at Arsenal, wasn't he? I think Dyche spoke about that yesterday. He got stick, but he got applauded for some of his performances recently. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot there. I hate to say it, but I don't think there's a lot you can change really from Sunday in terms of options that I think are going to massively.
Lindstrom though for coming over Harrison again. It's just a case
possibly.
Harrison's been poor, so we'll try someone else.
If you're playing away from home, maybe there's a little bit more space. they like to press and you can catch them a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
We definitely need more. It's all well and good me saying, okay, we'll drop Harrison and bring Lindstrom in, but he's still being Paul Lindstrom. He's just not doing enough to affect games when he comes on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
even when he starts.
Ineffective, so doesn't. This is a wider discussion, isn't it, about why we are where we are, isn't it? Because by and large, over the last 5 years, anybody worth their salt has been decent for us has been sold for lots of different reasons. So that's, as much as Dyche is getting stick for the moment, because I do think he's not getting the best out of himself and the players. A lot of this is to do with what's gone on off the pitch over the last 5 years, isn't it? Really, which we should take into account.
Yeah, predictions.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go goalless.
Nil.
Go goalless, I think. You see that stat about this has been 11 goalless draws in the Premier League this season, 5 of them being in Everton games.
So make it 50%.
Yeah, make it 50%. Sorry, yeah.
I think we'll get beat.
Do you reckon?
Yeah,
it has been a horrible place to go to.
I do think we'll get beat. I'll go for it. I'll go 2-0, to be honest.
Yeah, emphatic.
I just can't see it. And then it's not really a slight on us as such. Like, we are poor and we don't look like we can score or win games, but I think Bournemouth are probably just a far superior side on us as well.
I mean, they needed his last minute goal against West Ham, didn't he?
I mean, I say far superior. I just think, they're a better side.
Yeah, they've got one more going for them, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they spent a bit of money.
Okay, just final few comments from people who've been on the stream. So, Jez Klein, my mate on Twitter. I knew you'd find some way to praise Pickford. First goal, he's in no man's land. Second goal, he dives out of the way to a shot straight at him. I think this is in reference to what we were talking about. I think it was you, Gary, who said Pickford made a couple of good saves and it could have been.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Jez hates Pickford.
I know he does. Yeah.
He hates Pickford.
Yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? So the game's about opinions. I just thought the first goal was, you shouldn't give him the opportunity to shoot, should you, really?
Emma EFC, he should put Young at left back and Patel right back, but he's too stubborn, which we've discussed. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are suggesting that. I just feel he needs to take Mikalenko out to the firing line at this moment in time.
We had a couple of good games, hadn't he, before Sunday? But I know what you're saying. I mean, he was a bit lucky. Where did he give the penalty away? Was that City? Yeah. He's lucky to stay on the pitch there.
Okay, final one. So Craig Jones, I think this is in reference to what we were talking about with Forest and how in the second half we had a little bit more space. So Craig Jones says, not sure how you can write off positive cameos from Patterson and Lindstrom. Yes, we are 2-0 down, but to create competition we have to reward people who come on and do okay, irrespective of the scoreline.
That's a fair shout. I've just said they're options, aren't they? In terms of team selection. Yeah. But I still wouldn't. It's what you do when you start, isn't it? That carries more weight
again, doesn't it? We can't yeah.
Final thoughts then, I guess, before we finish off. I guess I'm not positive heading into Bournemouth. You two.
I gathered that. Chris has got to drive down. It's like you can sit at home and enjoy it all. Having a couple of beers and stuff. And Chris is doing the hard yards.
He doesn't drink while he's working.
No, well, he's got down talking about the journey there, and I'm back tomorrow. Yeah. Straight after. I mean, South Coast's already been a bit of a nightmare for us once this season, hasn't it?
Yeah. As long as it doesn't snow.
Got Brighton to come as well.
Yeah.
Who's doing the driving? Or
we always split it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we leave it there? Yeah.
Yeah, but let's hope we can start off the new year with a bang.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is all for today's show. As always, remember to give this video a like and give us a thumbs up, and as always, subscribe to the channel. Support is greatly appreciated. Most importantly, try to stay positive, unlike me. Enjoy the rest of your day. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Chris Beesley and Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.